Today we are going to talk about one-step equations in Math 8. This is a review for equations for you. The steps to solve an equation, a one-step equation. Locate the variable, determine the operation tied to the variable, whether you are adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. Use inverse operations on both sides of the equal sign to solve. Check your solution. Inverse operations. The inverse operation of adding is to subtract. The inverse operation of multiplying is to divide. It also works the opposite way. If you are subtracting, the inverse operation is addition. If you are dividing, the inverse operation is multiplication. We are now going to look at some examples. These are examples under addition and subtraction. Let's look at number 1. X plus 7 equals -1. We're going to find the variable. We're going to see what's happening to the variable. 7 is being added to it. The inverse operation of addition is subtraction, so we are going to subtract 7 on both sides. When we do that, the 7's here cancel. We are left with x equals -8. We can check this solution by substituting. As you know, when you substitute, use parentheses. So we now have parenthesis plus 7 equals -1. We are going to substitute in our -8. We're going to do the math. -8 plus 7 gives us -1. Bring down equals -1. -1 equals -1. Is that a true statement? Yes. Therefore, our answer, x equals -8. You can check all of your equations to make sure you have the right answer. Number 2, m minus 11 equals -9. Find the variable m. What's happening to it? 11 is being subtracted. What is the inverse operation of subtraction? Addition. So we add 11 on both sides of the equal sign. A lot of times you'll see people put a line down from the equal sign so that you can see the left side and the right side. That's up to you. The 11's cancel. -11 plus 11 is 0, so they cancel out. M equals 2. Number 3, we are going to find the variable h. What is happening to h? 14, let's look in front of it. 14 is positive, and look in front of the 14. Therefore, we are going to subtract 14 from both sides. The 14's cancel, the h comes down. I now have 9 minus 14, which is 5. H equals 5. -5, excuse me. 9 minus 14 is -5. H equals -5. Number 4. -15 plus w equals 14. Find your variable. What is happening to it? 15. Look in front of the 15. 15 is being subtracted. It is a -15. So we do the inverse operation, add 15 to both sides. When we do that, we get w equals 29. 14 plus 15 is 29. Go ahead and stop the recording and finish the rest of the practice for addition and subtraction on your own. We're now going to look at examples multiplication and division. Let's look at number 7. 4a equals -24. Just as Mr. Wurst says, when you have two things up against each other, touching each other, the operation is multiplication. So we have 4 times a equals -24. The inverse operation of multiplication is division. So we show that with a fraction line. Please do not use the division symbol. Please do not use the division symbol. We are going to show division by a division fraction line. divide by 4 on both sides. On the left-hand side, the 4's cancel out to 1. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So we have 1a, or you can just write a. Negative 24 divided by 4 is negative 6. So a equals negative 6. And we can check these also the same way. We are going to use parentheses for the variable. We are going to substitute in our answer of negative 6 in for a. So now we have 4 times negative 6, which is negative 24, equals negative 24. Is that true? Does negative 24 equal negative 24? Yes, it does. So we say yes, therefore our answer is a equals negative 6. Be careful, our answer is not negative 24. Number 8, negative 56 equals negative 7 times p. So we see that negative 7 and p are touching each other, therefore that means multiplication. We are going to divide by negative 7 on both sides. On the right-hand side, the 7's cancel to 1, so we have 1p equals negative 56 divided by negative 7 is positive 8. Let's look at number 9. We have n divided by 5 equals 9. N divided by 5, the inverse operation of division is multiplication. We are going to multiply by 5 on both sides. When we do that, the 5's over here cancel. We are left with 1n, or just n, same thing. 9 times 5 is 45, so n equals 45. Let's look at number 10. 2 equals r divided by negative 8. You see that it is r divided by negative 8, so the inverse operation is multiplication. We are going to multiply by a negative 8 on both sides. Multiply by a negative 8 on both sides. On the right-hand side, the negative 8's cancel. We are left with r equals negative 8 times 2 is negative 16. So r equals negative 16. Go ahead and stop your recording and finish the rest of the practice, multiplication and division section. We now have a mixed practice section where you could have addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division problems. Let's look at number 13. X minus 11 equals negative 3. We find our variable, we see that 11 is being subtracted, so we do the inverse operation, which is addition. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So we are adding 11 on both sides. The 11's cancel on the left-hand side. We have x equals negative 3 plus 11 is positive 8. Number 14, negative 10d equals 40. Well, we see that negative 10 and d are touching each other. They're butt up right against each other. That means multiplication. So we divide by negative 10 on both sides. Again, we use that fraction bar to show division. On the left-hand side, negative 10 divided by negative 10 is 1d, so we can write just d equals 40 divided by negative 10 is negative 4. So d equals negative 4. Number 15, a plus 15 equals 2. Find your variable. What's happening to it? 15 is being added, so we do the opposite. We are the inverse operation, so we are going to subtract 15 on both sides. Remember, you can put that line down to show the different sides, left side and right side, if that helps you. Positive 15 minus 15 cancels. We have a equals 2 minus 15 is negative 13. Remember, you could be checking your work also. Plug negative 13 in for a, and you can see that negative 13 plus 15 equals 2. It's a true statement. So our answer is negative 13 for number 15. Okay, number 16. 24 equals negative 3 plus h. Find your variable. What is happening to the variable? You see a 3. Look in front of the 3. It is negative 3. The inverse operation is to add 3. Be very careful of that. Always look in front of the constant. Look in front of the number. Negative 3 plus 3 cancels. H equals 24 plus 3 is 27. At this time, stop the recording. Go ahead and finish the rest of the mixed practice section. Okay, the last part of your notes, we were talking about rational equations. These happen to be equations with rational numbers, fractions, decimals, whole numbers, natural numbers. They're all included. The steps are the same. Locate the variable, determine the operation tied to the variable, add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Those are the operations we're talking about. Use inverse operations, opposite to undo, on both sides of the equal sign to solve. Check your solution. Let's try some of these. Equations with decimals. You see they are just the same steps, we just have decimal numbers. I encourage you to use your calculator when solving these. Number 1, a minus 17.9 equals 32.4. So we find our variable, we see that 17.9 is being subtracted, so we add 17.9 to both sides. When you're adding decimals, line up the decimals. So 32.4 plus 17.9 equals 50.3, which equals A. Number 2, find your variable. N is over here. What is happening to the n? Let's look at the number 15.3 in front of the number. It is being added, so we are subtracting 15.3 on both sides. So we have 14.7 minus 15.3, and that gives us negative 0.6 equals n. As you can see, the steps are exactly the same as the beginning of our notes. Number 3, negative 4.5p equals negative 60.3. Negative 4.5 is touching the p. Anytime you have a number touched up against a parenthesis, a letter, anything, it is multiplication. So to undo multiplication, the inverse operation is to divide by negative 4.5. We are going to divide by negative sides. So we have negative 60.3 divided by negative 4.5, which equals positive 13.4 equals P. Remember, when you are multiplying or dividing positives and negatives, you can use your tic-tac-toe board. Positives go diagonally, negatives everywhere else. A negative divided by a negative equals a positive. That's why our answer was positive 13.4. Number 5, 16 equals y over 0.3. That line means division, so it's y divided by 0.3. To undo division, we multiply. So we are going to multiply by 0.3 on both sides. Multiply by 0.3 on both sides. On the right hand side, the 0.3's cancel. We're left with y equals, and on the left hand side, we are going to multiply 0.3 times 16 and get 4.8. Please take time to complete the rest of the problems, the practice with equations with decimals. You can go ahead and stop the video now. Okay, I don't know what is going on with this screen, so we're just going to skip to the problems. Number 17. I tell my students that you can do this in 2 steps or you can do it in 1 step. If you do it in 1 step, you are multiplying by the reciprocal. Let's do number 17 that way. 2/3 x. This is really 2x over 3 equals 48. So we can multiply by the reciprocal. Multiply by 3 over 2 on both sides. Multiply by 3 over 2 on both sides. On the left-hand side, the 3's cancel, the 2's canceled. We are left with x equals. On the right-hand side, we have 48 times 3, because when we multiply fractions, we multiply the numerators, which gives us 144. And then we multiply the denominators, which is 1 times 2, which is 2. When you have a fraction, you always have to simplify. 144 divided by 2 gives us 72. So x equals 72 for number 17. That's how you do it when you multiply by the reciprocal. Number 18, we're going to do also by multiplying. 7 equals negative 1/3 w. This is really negative 1w over 3, which equals 7. Okay? So we can multiply by the reciprocal, or we can do it in 2 steps. The first step would be to multiply by 3 on both sides. When we multiply by 3 on both sides, on the left-hand side, the 3's cancel. We are left with negative 1w equals 7 times 3 is 21. At this point, we still have a 1w, but it's negative. W cannot be negative, so we now need to divide by negative 1 on both sides. We will get the negative 1's cancel. Our answer will be w equals negative 21. Okay, so you can see number 17, I solved it by multiplying by the reciprocal. You can see that number 18, I solved it in 2 steps. First, I multiplied by the denominator. Second, I divided. Number 19, we are going to do in 2 steps to show you that way. 60 equals negative 4/5 k. We are going to first multiply by the denominator on both sides. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to get 5 times 60 is 300 equals, the 5's cancel on the right-hand side. I am left with negative 4k. Now you know how to solve this. We are going to divide by negative 4 on both sides. The negative 4's cancel. I am left with k equals 300 divided by negative 4 equals negative 75. K equals negative 75. Number 20, 1/4 p equals negative 9. So here I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. Again, you can do it in 2 steps, just multiply by the denominator, but I'm going to show you how to multiply by the reciprocal. If we multiply by 4 over 1 on both sides, on the left-hand side, the 4's and 1's cancel. I'm left with p equals. On the right-hand side, I have negative 9 times 4, which is negative 36, over 1 times 1, 1. So p equals negative 36 when I reduce that fraction. Please take the time now to finish the practice for multiplying by the reciprocal.